억울한
Welcome to Lights, Camera, Remake, the podcast that asks the question, has Hollywood run out of original ideas?
Well, if in 1973 they were basing things off of manga, then no, this has always been a problem.
Hey everybody, I'm Erica.
I'm Bridget.
And we are here to talk about Lady Snowblood today from 1973 and Lady Snowblood, Love Song of Vengeance from 1974. Bridget.
Yeah.
So I happened to join my roommate and watch this film, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. I'm so glad that you were up for covering this. I'm going to pass it to you and let you take the helm and talk about the original Lady Snowblood.
A young girl is raised to kill the criminals who destroyed her family. Which is enough.
I mean, that's true. That's all true.
Yeah, that's fine. Director, okay, so
I'll give him that.
This is a Japanese film. We are probably going to mangle the names. I'm so sorry. We're going to do our best. Directed by Toshiya Fujita, and it's based on the manga by Kazuo Koike. The manga, it seems like the story was very, very similar to the films. Like, I read the plot synopsis of the manga, and I feel like it's beat for beat basically what happened in the movie. There might be some slight variations, which is pretty consistent from what I've seen from manga to anime interpretations. It feels like they're almost beat for beat, like shot for shot, like they're very similar. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's how they probably like to do their adaptations there.
I wonder, too, in adapting something from a novel that's all words versus adapting something from manga or like a graphic novel.
It's a lot of visuals.
There's visual there to pull from, so I think the approach would be a bit different.
Yeah. I am going to go over the plot, and then we're going to go over some themes and things, because I feel like this movie, although it's essentially a bloody, gory action film and can be looked at purely for like cult status of just like it's crazy, gory film, it's saying a lot. And I think that's what like good media does. It makes you think about other things.
Yeah, I agree. And also, just for any sensitive listeners out there, maybe there is some mentions of sexual violence. There are some mentions of, some graphic violence. We'll do our best not to be too graphic with it, but just in case, if you are sensitive, just be aware that there are some of those themes in this. Well, obviously it's violence because it's a revenge movie, but but there is some sexual stuff too. So take caution and take care.
Let's go over the ratings real quick. So Lady Snowblood, IMDb rating 7.6 out of 10. The Rotten Tomatoes, 100% tomato meter, and an 86% audience popcorn meter.
Really?
Yeah.
I am surprised.
100%. I'm surprised some critics weren't like, ew, too much blood,
Yeah, they could be. I mean, this film is definitely not perfect. I mean, there's definitely things that you could, I think, pick apart from it. There's a lot of like shaky camera work and stuff. And I don't mind it personally. Like I'm totally there for it.
I was in it. I mean, there was rough camera work, but I was in for it. The critics never seem to be 100%. So
yeah. And maybe it's just because it's kind of an important film.
Yeah, that really could be.
I wish that we had watched this with Kira.
Oh my God.
I think she would have really liked this.
That would have been fun. 4 bandits kill Sayo's husband and son, and then they assault her. And then one of them takes her back to another city, I guess his home city. And I guess she's his pretend wife for a while, or pretend girlfriend. It's not consensual. And at one point when they're getting busy, she takes her chance to kill him. Naturally, she's in trouble, and she ends up imprisoned. And as revenge, she gets involved with the guards, cough cough, until she becomes pregnant with a child born purely for spite. As Sayo is dying during childbirth, she tasks her baby to seek vengeance on the bandits who destroyed her life, claiming her baby will be an asura demon to deliver her revenge. That is a lot of pressure to put on a baby. You were like 3 seconds old, and your mom's like, and take all this trauma, please. So clearly the baby is Yuki, soon to be known as Lady Snowblood. She's our title character. The story jumps around the timeline, so I am going to go more linear just because it's going to make more sense to people listening. So as a child, Yuki is subjected to rigorous training as a little baby. So they show her at like 7 or 8 years old at first. She's training with a Buddhist priest. This training includes tasks like staying in a barrel while it rolls down a hill. That sounds like brain damage waiting to happen. Or literally like fighting a grown man while she's about 8 years old this time. She's fighting this grown man, unable to escape because she's tied to him with a rope. That was a lot. Yuki grows into a capable and cold-blooded assassin, soon to be known as Lady Snowblood. She hides her sword in her umbrella handle, and even though she looks like an innocent young woman petitely walking down the street, she cuts down anyone in her way, either contract killings or fulfilling her mother's vengeance quest, so killing the targets. So I think I might have gotten a little confused at this point. So I think Matsuyama, I think he was the guy that was gonna like do something to her at first, him and his gang. Weren't they threatening to rape her?
Not him, but yes, the guys in his gang were.
Okay.
A bunch of the guys didn't know who she was, and they were like, oh, a pretty lady. So they're like, come with us when she asks where Matsuyama is. And they lead her into the woods, basically, into like a clearing.
Yeah.
And they're all like giggling like hyenas. Which
my God, it's gross.
It's gross, and when I first was watching it, I wasn't too worried because I was like, okay, she's already proven herself to be a badass because of the snow clip that they show of her, like...
She dispatches people pretty easily with her sword. She's very capable.
Exactly. But I was also upset by what was... I was like, oh no, I don't want to see what's coming.
Well, they were making comments like, we share everything here. Pass her around. Pass her around. And then when she starts fighting them,
they start calling her a slut.
And then they're talking about killing her, and I'm like, this escalated like a comment section full of incels.
I think it's interesting that a man will call a woman a slut for not wanting to have sex with him.
Yeah, make it make sense. Actually, don't. I don't want to hear from you.
A man would really do that.
Yuki ends up befriending Matsuyama, who is one of the guys of this gang. I think he's leader.
I think he's the leader of the gang, yeah.
And now we're all chill. They're actually going to help.
Gang.
Well, now they're chill. Like she's proven herself. They're all on the same page now. And he gives her a lead to go find one of the men who assaulted her mother.
Well, he knew who she was before she got to the town, though, because he was like, she's the one who killed so-and-so, which I can't remember who it was now, but...
Yeah, I know. I get lost with the names, so that's why I might be...
That's totally fair.
It was still a very good movie.
Hard to keep up with, yeah.
But it was hard, like on a single watch to keep everything straight. I've done my best.
You're doing great, Bridget.
Oh, thank you. So Matsuyama's intel leads her to Takamura Banzo. He's living with his daughter, Kobwe, and fending off an illness. I don't know what he has, but he sounds like he's pretty ailing. She's trying to take care of him. His daughter's an adult. They're
not specific about what he has, but he needs some kind of medicine, and he doesn't seem to be able to work or earn money at this point.
And it must have taken some time already. So you see her like weaving these really big baskets, and the baskets are called bamboo wives. I did not know what these were. I thought they were for storage. I thought they were, like, I tried thinking what they were, and I Googled it. Do you know what a bamboo wife is for?
Do you want to quiz me?
I do. I'm gonna give you a chance. It's a big basket. It's almost the size of a person, and it's got a weird shape to it. Multiple choice. All right, ready?
I'm so here for this.
Is it something for food storage, a pillow, or is it just art to have in your house?
A sex doll.
No.
I kind of want to say it's a pillow.
Why would you want to say it's a pillow?
Because it's called a wife, and I feel like
that makes sense, because I remember in college...
Maybe you don't have a real wife, and you need one
to... You need one to hold. Yeah. That makes sense, because in college, I had a roommate who got a pillow, and she called it a husband. And I think that's what it was called.
Was it in the shape of a...
No, it wasn't. Human? I don't understand it either, but it is actually a pillow.
It's a pillow.
The bamboo it's got these big open holes in it, and it's very cool, so the air passes through it.
Oh,
It did not look like a pillow to me. I thought it was for storage. Kobwe has been making these bamboo pillows to sell for income. At least that's what she tells him. But we follow her as she leaves the house with the ones she made. And she goes to a cliff and just tosses them into the ocean. And she notices a woman watching her, and she's like, it's okay. They wouldn't have sold anyway. And I think that's when she meets Yuki for a split second.
That is the woman she's talking to, isn't it?
I think so. And because Yuki's on her way to kill this man.
Yes.
Of course, the girl doesn't know. The girl goes into town, and unfortunately, her real job is she is a lady of the night. That's how she'd been making money.
Geisha? Who knows? Yeah. I don't know if that counts.
It's insinuated in every article I read that she is prostituting, and it's against her will.
Is a different kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. Because these men come to the house and tell the father, you know what your daughter's doing for money, which was really unkind, but
yeah.
It's very, at the time, yes, it was definitely going to be an honor thing that was looked down upon. They've passed in transit, and Yuki ends up at the house, and hey, she kills him. I may have skipped some moments, but I don't want to go beat by beat throughout the whole movie. I just wanted to hit the most important things.
Okay.
At one point, she's followed in the street by this reporter, who found out he's a reporter, Ryurei Ashio, who ends up to be on her side. Like, he's talking about how he likes to write novels, he writes newspaper articles, and he wants to cover her story. She's famous. Like, people know of her. They might not know what she looks like. Not at first, not until she starts whipping out the sword. But, you know, everybody recognizes you when you whip out a sword.
If I had a nickel for every time I got recognized for pulling a sword out.
It's like, oh shit, that's Erica Strout.
Uh-oh, here she comes again.
So he is basically like selling the fact that he can write her story. And I don't think it's just because it's an interesting story. Like, yeah, he will benefit from it.
No, he gets hired by the priest/former vassal, which is a thing I looked up because I didn't know what a vassal was.
Yeah, I've seen that word and I've never looked it up.
It is a person who receives land and protection in a feudal system.
Oh.
In exchange for loyalty to their lord.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
But I guess he doesn't do that anymore, but he used to. His name's Dokai. He was the guy who trained her.
Yes, that's right.
Dokai hires the journalist writer to tell her story so that the one female in the bandit gang will come out.
Yes.
And reveal herself so that Yuki can find her and kill her.
Right, because in the story, I believe, is when they basically blame Okano, the woman, for the murder. And it might not be 100% true she's involved, but like this is a way to kind of root her out. So yeah, this leads to Yukio essentially framing Okano as the mastermind. And when she finds out where she is and there's this whole battle scene leading up to it, Yuki finally gets to the room where she's going to find Okano. And Okano is in the process of dying already because she is hanging from the rafters. I think it's like supposed to be she killed herself, quote unquote, but I think somebody helped her. I think one of the other bandits helped her.
Well, I hadn't even thought about that. Maybe
I think
they did.
so. I am not 100% sure. Now, Yuki is probably frustrated because she didn't get to kill her herself, so she whips out the sword anyway and slices her clean in half.
I'm glad she does it.
Yeah, it felt a little cathartic, you know? Like sometimes as a woman, you just need to cut something.
Well, absolutely. Also, just like you've spent your entire life in this mission of vengeance, and this person, I wrote down on my notes, if you'll forgive me for inserting this.
Please do.
Ugh, the bitch hung herself before you could kill her.
Oh my God.
Which I don't usually approve of using the B word, but in that moment it made sense.
Yeah.
You had it within your grasp, you know?
Yeah.
And then she took it away from you. And so I think I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I feel it.
I would have at least stabbed her.
There's absolutely just a waterfall of blood that falls from this moment. It is a lot. And then if you remember, a curtain falls on the scene.
Yes.
Closing the scene out.
Yes.
And that's very much reminiscent of like kabuki theater, of like the scene and the proscenium and all that. And it's very much reminiscent of traditional Japanese theater, which is very important commentary in the movie. And we'll talk about that later.
Ooh, you got notes on this, huh?
I got notes, baby.
I like it. Yeah, I was also wondering about parallels between, or maybe not parallels, but influences from kabuki theater into Japanese cinema.
I am also assuming that she was frustrated at Okano dying prematurely because right before this, she had found out one of the other bandits died before she could get to him. One of the men, I think his name is Gishiro, he died at sea. The man who was supposed to have died at sea, Gishiro, faked his death. We've gone full soap opera.
And guess who he reveals this to?
Yeah, it was revealed to our reporter friend. What? Why is he telling the reporter friend? It's because that's his son. Oh my God. This is sort of a general hospital situation here. And I'm expecting an evil twin at any second.
I'm enjoying the well-woven story, though. It's like layers, you know?
I like that there's all these connections. I mean, there's a lot of traveling and a lot of going from place to place and meeting a lot of people, but the things that are woven together are very intentional. Gishiro is attending a masquerade ball in which Yuki and Ryu, or we'll call him Ashio, it's easier to say, they both infiltrate this I can't even say English words right. It's probably not even English. Gishiro is at a masquerade ball, and Yuki and Ashio infiltrate it in order to get her final revenge. This is the last one on the list, as far as I can tell. I think he's the last one.
He is.
First, she thinks she kills him. She has a whole battle sequence chasing this one guy through, and at the last second, she kills this man. Then she peels off the fake beard. Then she starts peeling off his chin and his entire face comes off. It's a mask. It's an elaborate mask. This movie is set during the late 1800s, early 1900s. That is some technology, okay? That is intense. So obviously he had a decoy. But Gishiro is at the masquerade and they confront him. Gishiro shoots his son, Ashio, and then Yuki has to make a choice. Ashio is telling her, do it, basically. He's grabbing onto his father and holding him still. And she has to stab her sword through her friend to get to his father. That was intense.
It was very intense.
The very last moments of this film, Yuki stumbles outside. She's gravely injured. I think she's been shot. She's been stabbed and sliced and diced, and she's not looking so good. She's not very good on her feet right now. And out of nowhere, Kobue, the daughter from before, the one who tossed the baskets into the sea, the one who was taking care of her ailing father and found him dead later, she shows up and plunges a knife into her and then runs off. Yuki falls in the snow. It's a very beautiful scene, like really, really poignant, and she dies. Except she doesn't, because I think she gasps or wakes up for a split second right before the credits roll.
Yeah.
So they're basically saying, she's still there, she's still alive. And that's why we get a sequel a year later.
You love it. Yes. So let's dive into the details on this one. Start with camera stuff.
Yay, camera stuff. So I took a couple notes on the use of the camera in this movie just because it felt very much like as I was watching this. Now, this movie's from 1973. A lot of the techniques and things that they used, it felt very much like they were experimenting with the medium and the art form. Very interesting use of the titles of, because this movie's broken up into chapters like a book, and the chapter titles would come across the screen, but a lot of times they were physically written in real time. Like when the reporter is telling his story, he's like chapter 4, and it was actually chapter 4 in the movie. So I thought that was really interesting.
I liked that.
And then there's a ton of snap zooms, that zoom where they go from a wide to a super duper close up. And usually it's on emotional moments or a reaction shot. I mean, they're kind of jarring to today's discerning audience, but I feel like that was crazy cinema back in the day. So lots of snap zooms and a good deal of work on the dolly, a character entering a room. You could feel this really smooth, really precise dolly move that would back up or track with them and then wrap around them to get in front of their face. I saw that move quite a lot. And this all helps to tell the story. It wasn't too distracting or anything. You don't want your camera moves to be super distracting. You want them to help propel the story forward. And I feel like that's what they were doing. Now, the camera was not always settled. A lot of times it was shaky, and especially there were times when they were definitely hand holding that camera and just whipping it around, and it was shaky and messy, especially for the action scenes. It was kind of hard to follow sometimes, but they were putting that energy into it. And I feel like this is early 70s. Could there have been any French New Wave inspiration in that? Because the French New Wave, I think, is when they started with handheld. And they started freeing the camera from the tripod. And I'm wondering if that was an influence.
I would expect that, yes, there is definitely influence there. Have you ever seen Hiroshima Mon Amour?
No.
It is a really beautiful love story. I guess I don't know the history of the making of the film. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've just seen it.
Yeah, I mean, there could
it takes
definitely
place
could
in
be
their
a
country.
reference. It definitely. Thanks.
I don't know.
You watch stuff set in your country, right? Also, this brings me to the point of the color theory, because like, as you noticed, the blood was like so vibrant. There's tons of blood in this movie. There's geysers of blood. There's blood shooting in every direction. Tons of decapitated limbs. It's not even physically possible to be spraying this much blood, but here we are.
And the way in which it sprays is really,
it's literally like
bombastic and wild and projectile.
Yeah, projectile is a perfect word for it.
I also like the whatever material they used for the blood because it's really thick and opaque, bright red.
I was so grossed out by like the blood that came out of people's mouths. It was so thick and kind of
I bet that was disgusting to have
to put it. Awful. But the blood that like the arterial blood was like a spray that just shot out like a super soaker on steroids.
Yeah. Which we'll touch on this later probably. Yeah. But if you've seen Kill Bill, if we're talking to people in America who've seen more recent cinema, but maybe not so many classics, like if you've seen Kill Bill, it's like that style.
That's where it came from.
Right.
And this direct homage.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean,
colors.
So the bright red, obviously. Now it's in the title, Lady Snowblood. We've got white snow, red blood. Blood shows up really well on white, is why she has a white outfit a bunch of times. But then I go to color theory. So we as Americans might associate certain colors with certain things. Red could be passion, could be fire, could be all kinds of different things. But like in other countries, different colors do mean different things. It's just a cultural thing. So I looked up the color theory for red in Japan. With multiple cultures, it's associated with heat, anger, passion, danger. Within Japanese culture, it also means strength, power, protection, and self-sacrifice, which I think is perfect for this woman's, vengeance, because she is sacrificing herself every time she is injured while doing this mission. She is sacrificing herself for her mother's mission. Even though, I honestly, like, after you killed the last guy, couldn't you have gone on like a little beach vacation or something? It seems like a little much, but
it seems like it would be time to go relax for a while. Once you've
get
finished
a Mai Tai, like, hey, I killed all those bad guys. It's time to put my feet up. Like, girl never took a holiday.
Because it went straight into the sequel where she got pulled out of retirement.
Mm-hmm. I just got out and they pulled me back in.
That's right. I literally wrote that down.
Oh, my God.
I don't know do you know what that original reference is, though? Because I don't know where that comes from.
I'm pretty sure that's from The Godfather, and I've never watched The Godfather.
And I will never watch The Godfather.
Well, some douchebag guy will probably tell you the whole plot if you just wait long enough.
Well,
have you seen the Barbie movie?
I'm not sure I'll be dating men who've watched The Godfather anymore. In this political climate, I'm not sure that that's a thing I can do.
You're right. Have you seen the Barbie movie?
No, Bridget, I resisted it.
It's good. I like it. You would like it, actually. It's really, like, I'm not even a Barbie girl myself. I'm so sorry. I'll have to watch it with you and Kira now. Kira's just the character.
Kira, if you're listening, get ready. We're doing a Barbie night. Erica's going to be really drunk for it.
Yep. We're going to get the rosé out.
Rosé, as long as it's dry.
But there is one joke I will tell you from the Barbie movie. It's the girls are trying to break some male programming that's been brought into their world. Uh-huh. So one of them is like, "Hi, what are you watching on TV? Oh, is that The Godfather? Can you start the movie over and talk through it?" It's very funny. You would love this movie. And I know you didn't think you would, but it was good.
It's not that. I think for some reason when a movie gets hyped as much as that movie did, there's something in my stupid personality where I'm just like, man, I'm not going to see it then.
I've definitely done that with things.
I'm so annoying.
Just so much.
I'm a lot sometimes, and that is one of the ways in which I am a lot.
No, I still appreciate you.
I'll see it eventually, and I figured I would. One of the movies I did see recently, what is it, Poor Things?
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Emma Stone. I really loved experiencing her perspective of the world.
Ooh.
As a female in a grown body, but as with a child's brain, where she was experiencing the world without any conditioning.
Oh, okay. Well, isn't she kind of, I haven't seen the movie yet. Isn't she sort of like Frankenstein's monster? Like she was made?
Yes.
So, yeah, I could see that.
She's an adult woman who committed suicide, and this crazy doctor puts a child's brain into her body and brings her back to life.
Oh.
So she's learning how to speak, and she's learning about the world and how just to move, but she's also very protected. Mm-hmm. And so she doesn't get the kind of conditioning that women generally get as children. She goes about the world like not feeling ashamed about enjoying her body or anything that she experiences. And she calls out the men that she comes in contact with who try to pull this like double standard bullshit on her. But she doesn't do it in a way where she's like, this is bullshit. She's just like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? And there's something about that perspective that I really enjoyed watching. But we'll talk about Poor Things once they do a sequel, okay?
Okay. Or we find out that it's self-referential of something else, probably Frankenstein, to be honest. What I want to touch on, and I'm going to try not to go too deep because I almost got a certification in Japanese history learning about this.
What? Oh, I got you.
So the scene where Yuki artfully slices in half that lifeless body of Okano. You know, you remember the blood pouring out, and then we hear a single strike of a drum. Boom. That is an Okawa drum. I'm probably saying that wrong. From Kabuki theater. This music and the curtain that lowers over the scene, it's literally a presentation of Kabuki theater. It's literal theatricality that's showing her conflict. And it's actually speaking to the theme of a conflict between Japan's like original self, its feudal self, versus westernization, which was a big thing in the 40s.
I bet.
The U.S. took occupation of Japan in 1945 to 1952. During this time, we decided to Americanize the place because, you know, we know better. During our reorientation policy, we sought to transform Japan from a militaristic society into one of peace and democracy. I feel like whoever wrote that original article was very
optimistic.
Biased. Yeah, optimistic. We'll go with that. So they did this mostly through changing education, like reforming education and their media. Now, of course, with media, that means there was censorship. Ironic because we are the land of the free speech and all that. There was a heck of a lot of censorship going on. Censors would delete the disapproved items because they wanted to Americanize Japan. Obviously, this is kind of crappy to think about now. In the first weeks of imposed censorship laws, Japanese news reports were being blocked, and that also includes any reports of American troops behaving badly. Make of that what you will. Now, they had all these different boards and sections that were dealing with different factors of media consumption. So like, you know, movies and TV and radio and stage. The drama unit urged the Japanese to stage more modern style plays and less classical Japanese ones, literally urging them to not do kabuki theater anymore. And that was also General MacArthur, who was making a point of, I don't want to see things like kabuki theater anymore, traditional feudal Japan. That, I have more about that, but I didn't write this in order. Where is he? After World War II, U.S. General Douglas MacArthur wanted to ban kabuki theater, claiming it was a relic of Japanese feudal society, or pure Japan. But the scholar, writer, musician, and translator, Fabian Bowers, convinced the general of the preservation of the art form because it was historically significant. It's really good that he did that, too.
I think I get probably where they were coming from in doing that, but I don't agree with it.
There's no reason to eradicate it. I don't understand.
That's why they say art can be so dangerous, right? Like,
well, yeah, because it leads people to revolution sometimes. Yeah, so in some of the articles I read about this, they were talking about how Lady Snowblood is recalling the original Empire of Japan, but also rejecting modern world of things, you know, the westernization. When we go into the masquerade, all of the people they're actually wearing Western dresses and suits. They're not traditional Japanese. They're all, and it's kind of hedonistic, like the depiction of these party goers. They're all having a great time and they're all laughing it up. And it just seems very hedonistic and gluttonous. But
she definitely sticks out in her garb.
Yeah, well, because our gal Yuki, embracing traditionalism, she is the symbol of traditional Japan. She's in a classic kimono. I think they're kind of showing that both make sense, but, you know, don't erase your history. But I will leave you with this quote. Yuki, when she's meeting the reporter, and he's very curious about her, she says, "Indiscriminate curiosity could kill." And he says, "Is that a threat?" And she responds, "Take it as you like." I'm like, that was cold, Yuki.
She's so badass.
It was cold.
I love her so much.
Yeah, she's a badass. Honestly, the fight scenes were great. And it's funny because the fight scenes are not as smooth and like over choreographed as I'm used to.
Yeah.
But it was effective. I mean, just the way she carried herself. And it's kind of funny because in her dress, I feel like she can't run very fast, but she's still incredibly fast with her sword. And I think that's also why they underestimate her.
Both of these films, I like because both of them have a very similar feel visually. Mm-hmm. You know, like I think they did a seamless job visually of going from the first to the second film. And I really love how expressive it all is. It's not all super realistic, but it really tells a beautiful story and it expresses a beautiful aesthetic. Some of the flashback scenes where they're talking about, oh, here's some backstory and what's, you know, and here's some important information for you to like further understand the story and get into the plot of it. But just look how they do them with like the still images, like the painted. Some of them are done with painted images. In the second film, they use photos.
Yeah.
But they're black and white photos or they're sepia tone. I can't remember exactly.
It's very stylistic.
It's very stylistic. It's very expressive. I really like how they do that.
And there's some shots and scenes that are just visually striking. I mean, there's some shots where I just like was staring at it going, wow, she's so pretty. Yeah. She's so badass at the same time. Like her eyes are amazing.
Yes. Very expressive eyes.
But there's just such moments where like someone's peeking through a doorway or someone's just framed in such a way or reacting to someone in such a way. And it's a painting. Just the way that they built this shot around what's going on.
Absolutely.
So yeah, lot of things to learn from your older movies. How did they tell this story? How did they tell it effectively? You know, there's parts where I got lost, and I think that's more of it's partly a cultural thing, but also because I was trying to keep up reading subtitles and looking at back up the action. I'm usually pretty good at that, but I did miss a few things here and there. That's why Erica had to correct me. And I had to Google what happened again.
Well, and I feel like I've missed it because I've seen the first one twice now.
Okay.
And I've seen the second one once. In watching the second film only one time, I totally feel the same way where I'm sure there's stuff that I missed. I did my best to pay attention, but I was also trying to take notes and take everything in, and it's hard to do when I'm reading subtitles along with, you know, watching a complicated story.
It is, you know, yeah, it is a little complicated. It's not told linearly. The dialogue helped me follow what was going on sometimes, but they did not spoon feed it to you. Sometimes you kind of had to pick up context clues and figure out what was going on.
Yeah, and I'm sure watching it more than once would help with that too. And
I think so.
Okay, so one of the other films I watched recently in this genre was Shogun Assassin, which I really also enjoyed. Even though somebody told me that he thought it was boring.
Oh my goodness. That sounded very pointed, and you're hoping that person hears this podcast.
I am. I think these are the kinds of films where if what you're expecting is something that will grab you immediately in a modern way, you're not going to get that, and you probably do think it's boring. If you're willing to give it the time and attention to like set it up, you're going to get rewarded, I think.
I think having the patience to watch an older movie and also to watch a movie with subtitles will open your world up to many good things. She's laughing.
Could have been the subtitles.
It could have been the subtitles. Yeah.
So all that to say about the visual aspects of it and the themes and the beauty, we're just going to roll right into the second film called Lady Snowblood, Love Song of Vengeance from 1974. The max description is Japan's secret police enlist a female assassin to squelch a revolution. And Bridget, you're going to go on and tell us about the various ratings. I will say, first up, our Letterboxd rating was 3.3 out of 5 stars, which I'm a little disappointed with.
Yeah, you're going to be disappointed with these too.
Oh, no.
I guess people didn't feel the same way we did. I mean, I'm benefiting because I watched them back to back. But maybe if you waited a while to watch the second one, it didn't hit as well. I mean, then again, that's what you did. The IMDb rating on Lady Snowblood 2 is a 6.3 out of 10, which isn't the best. The Rotten Tomatoes, there is no critic score, and it's a 59% popcorn meter. It looks like some people really liked it and some people really didn't like it.
Oh.
And people just voted very strongly.
You're on Rotten Tomatoes?
Rotten Tomatoes, yeah.
Let me pull this up. I gotta see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna rate 4 out of 5.
Sorry for my vocal fry today. I'm congested and I don't know why.
She just wants to sound sensual for you. You know, just like all those girls on the OC.
Oh my God. You're hilarious.
Thank you. Like a lot of people put like 3.5, 4 out of 5 stars, and someone's like 1. I was a big fan of the original, very excited to see the sequel. Unfortunately, it was very disappointing.
I wonder what these people were expecting.
What were you expecting?
If they wanted a victory lap sequel, that's not what you're getting here. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's the same character. Yes, she is still fighting and killing people and being a badass.
I don't see what the problem is. Honestly, it's a continuation of the story.
Right. And how can, there's only so much, family vengeance you can enact, right? And so I think it was a nice extension of, what does she do next? And what she does next is get arrested and go to jail, but then she gets rescued from...
Why don't you go and do the plot?
What's the word? Oh, I guess I should just do the plot.
So the point is, we start just about where we left off, where she got apprehended by the police for, she did commit a heck of a lot of murder in the first movie. Guess it catches up to you. She's apprehended, and in the quickest justice system in the world, she's on her way to be executed at some point. And the secret police...
so many people.
For killing so many people, let's be honest. But she is saved by the secret police, who kill the police who are taking her to her execution, and then they force her to do killings for them.
Yes, so the Shadow Army.
Is murder really that wrong in this world? It sounds like it's just you got to murder for the right people.
Right, and they and this secret police force enlist her to infiltrate an anarchist revolutionary.
Yeah, it's okay as long as you're killing our enemies, is what they basically say.
Right. And I wrote it down. My notes are so dumb.
I love your notes. It's the first time that Erica has actually written her notes in the same document as me, and I got to experience in real time as she got to the foot stuff.
Oh no, the foot stuff. It was upset. I don't want to.
It was upsetting.
Look, whatever people are into, but that was the way that was shot was too much for me. I was overwhelmed and uncomfortable.
Yeah, there was a sex scene where someone was really into feet. Yeah, these are not for the faint of heart. These are not for the kiddos, so keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. So September 1905, the war has ended and made way for capitalism. But one Lady Snowblood was focused on her vengeance and was wanted for murder. So badass. The scene of her tied to a bunch of cops and her escape from them.
Yeah, that was badass.
Yeah. If you had 7 ropes on you and you were able to escape and kill all the cops and get away,
Yeah, it was really interesting. She was literally surrounded in a circle and tied up in every direction. And she's just like, this is just another Tuesday for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. So she's sent to this guy's house, who's a revolutionary, to pretend to be his maid. Little does she know, he already knows who she is. And so she's been looking through his house when he's not around or when he's making uncomfortable love to his wife. And with her feet in his mouth.
The foot shots lingered. You know what? Maybe that's where Tarantino got it from. Dang.
It occurred to me that that's possible.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe he's not a feet guy. Maybe he just was
Maybe
inspired by
it's referential.
Lady. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I can't with this. Okay.
We are off the chain, everybody.
You know, there's nothing like a tipsy retelling of a plot of a movie from Erica Strout.
Have you seen Drunk History? That's a thing.
Yeah, but see, for me, it's like drunk movie plots, and then I go on this. If you get me drunk enough, it's a whole thing.
Okay, got it. Good to know.
There's a voicemail somewhere that happened where I was trying to explain the plot of the Sex and the City movie, the second one, to someone.
Not even the first one. Damn.
So bad.
That's incredible. I'm glad that that is not lost media and that I will be finding that. And I'm just kidding. I don't have it.
I wish you could find it.
That's funny.
Okay, so she becomes this revolutionary's maid, and she looks for this certain document that the secret police want her to find. And at some point, her boss, this guy whose maid she is like, I'm going out to run these errands, you come with me. And he ends up taking her to a graveyard that's intended for pets, dogs and cats, etc. But it has a bunch of his dead comrades in it. And he starts explaining to her, like, you know, they were treated like dogs, like whatever. They weren't even given funerals. And then he ends up convincing her to come to his side and join the resistance, basically. And he tells her, I have this document. It's right, you know, he shows her where it is. And he's like, what this document can do is prove that the secret army is doing illegal stuff. It'll prove everything that they've been plotting, and we can expose them with this, basically, is why they want it. So even though she doesn't say anything, because at one point I was like, did she actually agree to this or no? But I guess she does, at least, you know, because she's then on their side.
I watched this movie and I don't remember half of this. I watched it today. That's how bad this is. I was trying to multitask, though.
Yeah, it's tricky.
This is not a multitask kind of movie, everybody. No. I'm going to tell you that much very, very clearly.
Even just pausing to make notes was distracting.
Yeah, same. I kept having to pause it, and then I'm like, wait, where am I?
Yeah. The guy whose maid she was for a while, he ends up getting captured by the secret army and tortured, and they're trying to find her. They're trying to find Lady Snowblood. Oh, yeah. He won't give her up, so they torture him.
He's beating him up pretty good.
Oh, definitely.
There's definitely blood spraying.
There's blood spraying, and they pour like what seems to be boiling water on his wounds, which sounds super painful.
I couldn't figure out what they were pouring it on because the angle was so weird. It was
a weird angle
because it looked like actual boiling water. Again, this is 1974. I'm not sure.
Boiling oil. We're not sure.
Yeah, whatever. It looked like it was in a kettle, but they were pouring it behind his head, and I didn't know if he was they were pouring it on his head, on his wounds. I didn't know where it was going, but he was screaming in agony. So there's that. A lot of weird reactions on things that should be painful. Like he definitely had a delayed reaction there, and there's a delayed reaction in some other fight scenes that I noted that were unintentionally funny. But it doesn't mean I don't like the movie.
Right. So yeah, while he's being tortured, it turns out my notes don't make any sense. Okay, it said, ew, they injected him with the plague. That's fucked. How did no one else get it? Oh, spoke too soon, because the guy who was taking care of him got the plague.
Yeah, I don't know what plague it is, but it was pretty gnarly. He had like lesions and stuff on him.
Yeah, I presume bubonic plague, but yeah, I don't know.
Whatever was the flavor of choice in early 1900s.
So Lady Snowblood fulfills her mother's revenge and then becomes a hero of the people. And I feel like that's a story arc I can get behind.
I can get behind that too.
So at one point, while she's initially running away from the cops at the beginning of the film, she gets her foot caught in a trap.
Oh, I felt physical pain in that moment.
Oh, those things look gnarly.
It's gnarly. Like it breaks bones. So like the fact that she even got out of it was impressive.
Yeah.
The way that they overdubbed her voice, I think it was in both movies, but I think I noticed it more in the second movie. The way they dub her voice, it feels like it's not attached to her. Like it's really weird ADR. Like she would be kind of reacting, but then the voice would not like match. Like it didn't sound like her.
Yeah, there's a lot of ADR in both of these films that doesn't really make sense or seem realistic.
It almost seems like most of it was dubbed over. Like I'm not talking like Japanese to English or whatever. I'm talking about like the original movie was used so much ADR. Like maybe they didn't record as much sound on location, or maybe they had to fix a lot of sound, or they added certain things in for reactions. I'm not sure, but
I wouldn't have been surprised if they did the whole movie that way. Honestly, the way it was.
Yeah.
Because there was not really a lot of, like...
There's not a lot of dialogue.
Well, you're right. There's not a lot of dialogue, but there's also not a lot of, like, environmental sound or room tone or anything.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if they just recorded maybe scratch recordings while they were filming. I don't know, maybe for logistical reasons, maybe not.
Yeah, the sound did feel disconnected, so I'm hoping I'll be able to watch another movie from this era and see if it's the same way. Maybe it's a style choice, maybe it was just the limitations of the time. Like, I don't know, but it was a little bit distracting.
And the training scenes when in the first movie when she's a little girl training and heard the sounds that she makes
they don't seem to match.
They don't seem to match. They don't seem like they're coming from her.
Yeah, but the fight scenes
like gaspy stuff.
There's a lot of fun fight scenes though in both movies. I did note there's a couple of times when people brought a sword or a knife to a gunfight, and often
there were
lost.
a couple of guns in this film.
Yeah, and they sometimes lost, and they sometimes won. Now I don't remember exactly which scene this was. It was early in the movie, but she is fighting. It might be when the police apprehended her. She's fighting the police in the beginning. And there's a man on a horse. She is fighting this guy, and, well, he's kind of far away, so she just throws her sword at him. But it's not like it spears him like you would expect it to be in an over-stylized movie. It hits with the flat of the blade, and then there's a really delayed reaction where he eventually topples off the horse, and it made no sense, and I laughed.
No, somehow I missed that.
It was something I noted because it made no sense. Like, she threw a sword at him for one thing. He hit with the side of the blade, not the sharp part of the blade. And then it took a couple seconds, and then he's like, ugh.
You don't remember if it was the first or the second movie?
I think it's the second movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I don't remember when.
Maybe those kinds of moments were why people didn't like it as much.
Maybe this stuff was more egregious to the discerning viewer.
Because there's so many of those.
Well, you know.
Okay, so basically what happens in the second one, the government, in trying to get to this document where she tells the guy in charge of the Shadow Army that the document is being held by someone who has the plague in one of the ghettos, one of the slums.
Yeah, and they want to get rid of that document because it reveals all of their secrets, basically.
Yeah, so she thinks that in threatening it being there, that they can't get to it because they don't want to get the plague, and they end up deciding to just burn all of the slums down. And telling the public that, we had to because the plague was there. Yeah,
that's the cover, but it's pretty bad, the destruction. She comes upon it, and there's just these hollowed out, what's left of these homes.
Yeah.
And she eventually finds one of her cohorts in the rubble holding what's left of this scroll.
It's the doctor.
It is the doctor.
Nurse, and the doctor that found her in the trap earlier, in the animal trap. He helps her there as a stranger, and then later on, he nurses her back to health after being shot. And he turns out he's the brother of the anarchist revolutionary that she was, pretending to be the maid for.
More of those connections.
So, yeah. And so he takes care of his brother who was injected with the plague originally, and that's how he gets the plague. Because he wouldn't let anyone else get near him.
Yeah, he did put him in a separate room and said, don't go near him, basically, to keep the contagion down.
So she finds him in the rubble after the burning of the slums, though, and he still has the document somehow.
Yeah, and it's
and
only
not dead.
It's only partially burned, and he's not dead.
If you have the plague and you are in a large fire that burns up a whole neighborhood, I'm not sure how that works realistically. But again, suspension of disbelief. I'm here for it. The two of them end up attacking the leader of the Shadow Army and I don't know what his title is, but the guy who's the one in charge of the whole area or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't remember what his title is.
This is where I get lost because I don't know what people's titles are and things like that.
Yeah.
The head honcho of this. Is it the secret police?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also the political figurehead.
He's some hot stuff.
He's smart stuff. Anyway, so Lady Snowblood and this doctor end up attacking and killing them and, win the day. And the guy in the plague ends up dying through this confrontation. And she is the only survivor. Yeah. A happy ending, but also a lot of loss and sadness and strife through it.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the first movie they were talking about, Lady Snowblood is to be this creature of vengeance and have no human emotion, but I feel like she proves that otherwise because she eventually makes friends along the way and allies, and she does have human emotion. I mean, there's someone she kills in this movie who's one of her friends, and you can see it really affect her when she kills them. But she's doing it as a mercy killing. He was grievously injured at this point, and he wasn't going to live. And he says, finish me, basically.
Yeah.
That was rough.
But they have a couple of moments through the whole story where, especially in the first one, I feel like even though they talk about how she's an asura and she's only alive to enact revenge based on what happened to her family, she still has these moments where they're like, she saw children singing in the street and it touched her heart. There are these little moments where they want to make sure that that she's still a human and she still is emotionally invested in what's going on.
Yeah, and I think those moments are good. They show she's still a person,
Yeah.
I love this. How does she always know when a mirror is actually a window?
It happens twice.
It does. It's weird if it happens once. It's really weird if it happens twice.
There are 2 mirrors in this film, and she just looks at them and decides that they're actually windows and throws something through.
Oh, the one time when she's in the bed and
That's one of them. There's 2.
Yeah, she's in the bed, someone's talking to her, and then she just flings this, what looked like a scalpel at first, and then it looked like a really sharp butter knife. And she chalks it into the ceiling, and then you see blood start dripping down because somebody was up there.
Oh, that's not one of the mirror ones. Oh. But yeah, when that happened, I was like, what did she...
She has a sixth sense about these things.
I didn't even realize what was happening until I saw the blood coming through, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, me either. It felt, because they kind of lingered on the shot for a long time.
Mm-hmm, they did. They made a big deal about it. Mm-hmm. Also, when there's one fight scene later on in the second film where suddenly you're seeing her perspective, like Gonzo style, which was really fun, I thought. And it only lasts a few seconds, and it's the only one they do that I can remember.
Interesting.
But I thought it was a neat choice, and I liked it.
For a lot of things, they do linger on shots for a long time. So you can see a character walk from one side of the set to the other. Mm-hmm. It feels intentional for the pacing. I feel like people were more patient back in these days. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, we definitely edit a lot faster and we, break up the shots more. But I'm not mad at it.
I'm not mad at it either. Do you want to go Tarantino now?
Let's go full Tarantino.
We've been recording for an hour and a half.
We need to get to the Tarantino stuff.
I went back and watched clips of Kill Bill. It's been several years since I've seen Kill Bill 1 and or 2. When these movies were first released, I was really into them, and I've been a Tarantino fan. I can't say that I am automatically a huge fan of him personally, but I do appreciate his work. He might be a little too comfortable with making people uncomfortable in making his films.
Yeah. There's a lot of problematic creators out there too, so it's hard to make peace with that. But right. I do like a lot of his stuff too, so I'm of the same camp.
His style is really cool, and I know that his style is very obviously an amalgamation of a lot of different things, a lot of different elements and styles that he also likes. Mm-hmm. I don't know that art always has to be. It doesn't have to be obvious, like what you're pulling from, but I don't think it is problematic for people to know what you're pulling from if you are making it your own, and I think he does that.
I think if most people are honest and they're creating something, a lot of times your inspiration came from somewhere else. It doesn't mean it's a copy. It doesn't mean it's, a redo. But if you are a person who writes books, you are influenced by books you read. If you're a person who makes movies, you were influenced by the movies you watched. So he is more obvious about his homages, I think, and his references, but a lot of times it's to really obscure things. And in a way, if you watch a Tarantino film now and you see Kill Bill and you see these references and it's like, oh, this is a reference to Lady Snowblood, you might go back and watch that movie and see where the references come from and expand your filmmaking horizons. Why not?
Yeah, and that's cool, I think.
I think it's cool.
I don't know why I feel this way exactly, except that I've pretty much only heard men talk about their art in this way, and I think mostly I've heard men talk about making music in this way.
Interesting.
Of the music background that I have. So I imagine that it applies to other art forms as well, filmmaking included, and Tarantino seems to be of this camp. It was an interesting thing hearing men talk about their songwriting and talking about how they want to write something that sounds kind of like Slint, or I want to write something that sounds like Hot Snakes or Fugazi, or, you know, whatever it is. Like, I want to write something that's like Radiohead-ish. And it's like, they're like aiming for these specific sounds. And I think in a certain way, it makes sense to do that because you're being really intentional with what you're creating, and you understand your references, and you understand how those songwriters put their songs together. And so you can take those strategies and apply them to your own art and music and whatever you're creating. But it's something that I never really thought about as a songwriter until more recently, when I specifically tried to learn what other people are doing more. To me, songwriting for a long time was just what feels right. And I can't explain it, but I know it when I feel that feeling. Oh, this is what it needs to be.
I like that.
Which to me feels a little bit like, generally I like that better, but I also appreciate, I think as I've gotten older and like learned more about how other people do things, including songwriting, I appreciate that more.
Yeah, I think the idea is you can't create in a vacuum.
Yeah.
You know, you can't create with no influence from anything else because, like, let's say I want to write an action film. There's going to be something from all the action films I've watched that's going to filter into my brain and say, well, we should do this and then we should do that. You know, our character should be like this archetype or, you know, something like that. There's always going to be influences. And it's okay to do that. That's fine. As long as you're not, like, copying something and blatantly ripping it off. Yeah, that's fine.
Which you can, and call it an homage too, though.
You can write it as a fan fiction and change the names, and then you've got 50 Shades of Grey.
Excuse me. What?
Oh, you didn't know that? 50 Shades of Grey is a Twilight fan fiction. They changed the names. Yeah, the author did.
Bridget, I didn't know that.
How did you not know? I love making fun of that fact. I mean, it's fine that it happened. E.L. James, real name, I don't remember. Yeah, she wrote it as a Twilight fan fiction and changed the names. And I had a friend argue with me once that couldn't possibly be true. And I'm like, but the author said it. And yeah, fan fiction is not always like set in the exact same universe. Sometimes it's like, what if Bella and Edward met in a corporate office and they had this weird sex contract? I have not seen or read this work, so take that with a grain of salt.
I can't. Oh, that's amazing.
There's other things that are literally fan fiction that were rewritten or retooled and became something else. Yeah. Or things that are really referential to, again, their inspirations. You can't watch Stranger Things and not see the Spielberg influences and the Stephen King influences.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And Stephen King was okay with it too. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with building upon ideas that came before, but just being honest about your influences is a good idea.
Right. And one thing that Tarantino loves, that we know he loves, is samurai and kung fu. Mm-hmm. You see that in Kill Bill too, where he's like, not Kill Bill 2, but Kill Bill as a whole. Beatrix Kiddo gets sent to her trainer, the guy who's going to train her to be a fighter. That seems like a very kung fu segment in the film.
It absolutely is.
Like, she's not learning samurai stuff here. She's learning, like, hand-to-hand combat and building her strength and speed and stamina and all that. And the guy's very cruel to her.
Ooh.
Also, based on Lady Snowblood, as we know, the Oren Ishii character, her scene at the end when Beatrix Kiddo kills Oren Ishii out in the courtyard where it's snowing, it's a really beautifully shot scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good. And just like the whole storyline around Oren Ishii, I really like. I bet there's more influences than just that scene too from
I'm sure it's all over the place. And also I have a feeling, and it's been a while since I've seen a Tarantino movie, but I have a feeling he's used some of these filmmaking techniques that they did, including that snap zoom to reactions.
100% that snap zoom.
Because I feel like that's what happened when she's like looking around. She's holding her sword. She's looking around at the enemies. I feel like that's when we snap zoom to her face.
Yeah.
So yeah. Cool.
I know I mentioned this before we started recording, but like I also wondered while I was watching the clips that I watched today, and one of the clips was from when Beatrix Kiddo gets buried alive. And she's just been buried underground, and she's got this flashlight, and it starts with her like waving it around, looking around, and kind of like getting her bearings, sort of. And then she kind of like works her shoes off and gets them like up to where she can reach them. She gets this razor out of her boot and cuts the rope around her wrists, and then she kind of goes from there. And from her training day, she has like the thing where she had to punch through the board.
Oh, yeah.
With just a finger length.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, yeah. So she starts doing that to get out of the coffin. Anyway, I'm watching this scene, which is a really cool, really tense. I remember the first time I watched that, and I was on the edge of my seat.
I can't breathe when I watch those scenes. Oof. It's hard to get through.
If you were claustrophobic, oh my God. Yeah. But one film that I watched fairly recently was The Vanishing. The Vanishing was, I think, a Dutch film. Somebody gets buried alive in this film.
Oh boy.
And it's really upsetting. It's one of those things where it just kind of like sits with you for a while. This person, the way they shot that, I'm wondering how much of that was like Tarantino pulling from.
I'm sure it was. Also, all I could think of is that Ryan Reynolds movie where he's buried in the desert. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's traumatic. Ugh. It's a good movie. Like, it's legitimately a good movie. I'm glad I watched it. But like you were saying about that other scene, like, it sat with me for a while after I saw it.
Isn't it crazy how that can happen?
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, I'm just still thinking about this.
I'm just watching this movie. And then later you're like, my life has changed forever and I don't know how to feel about things. Movies can do that.
Everything is different now.
I don't know. I don't understand anything anymore.
Well, okay, so in true wrap-up fashion for Lights, Camera, Remake, we want to go over and say, was the sequel worth being made? Are we glad that it was made? Are we stoked on it? Or do we feel like, no, that was stupid. That was a victory lap. That was a cash grab. What have you? Bridget, do you want to go first?
I think it would be easy to try to go with some of the reviews I saw and say, it's not as good as the original. It's, it's just a rehash or whatever, some of these comments were saying. I liked enough scenes in this movie and they did enough interesting things that I am glad it exists. And I think it deserves to exist. I think the sequel is valid enough on its own merit that it deserves to be here.
I actually agree. I feel like I don't know that 5 of them would need to be made,
right.
like we don't need to like
some other movies
keep milking this forever. But I do feel like the first film is her origin story. It's her getting the revenge that her mother created her to get.
Yeah.
And fulfill. She's still Lady Snowblood, but I feel like she makes more choices for herself in the second film, and she becomes a hero of the people. I appreciate that that's another facet to her story. Mm-hmm. So to me, I feel like, yes, that was in a different enough part of her story where it was worth being told. And I feel like I enjoyed a lot of the scenes. A lot of the shots are really neat. And I think it absolutely deserves to have been made, and I'm glad they made it.
Yeah, I think these movies would be great for film students to check out and see the references and see the different ways they use the camera to tell the story. The effects are not necessarily 100% great by our standards, but are they effective? Yes, they are. And that's worth looking at.
It's not up to today's snuff for special effects, but it's really expressive. And to me, that's more important than is it super believable.
There is a line from early in the first movie, and it was, people say you can't wash away the mud of this world with pure white snow. You need asura snow, stained fiery red.
Ooh. Hey. And also, if you noticed in Kill Bill, the song, The Flower of Carnage, was the name of it.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize. I thought it was just he had somebody write a song that sounded really similar, but he actually pulled that song from Lady Snowblood and used it in Kill Bill.
That's the trivia I pay you to look for. I'm just kidding. I don't pay her.
That's why I'm making the no bucks. Thank you so much for listening. Like and subscribe, people. Rate and review, please. If you want to find us, Bridget, where can they find us?
If you'd like to follow the podcast, you can find us on Instagram, Lights, Camera, Remake Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Lights, Camera, Remake Podcast. send us an email at lightscameraremake@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your suggestions.
And your criticisms about how we pronounced all the names in this episode.
Please be kind. We know not what we do.
I've never even been to Japan.
I'd like to.
I would like to as well. Bridget, where can they find you online?
I'm Bridget LaMonica on everything, so Instagram, Facebook, what have you. I refuse to get all the new social medias that have popped up in the last 4 weeks. I'll see if they have any staying power first. And I also have a website, www.bridgetlamonica.com. You can see my blog where I talk about basically the film industry and teach certain subjects. And I also have my reel. So there's that. Erica, don't you have like some things you need to promote?
I suppose that I do. You can find me on Instagram at Stroutocaster. You can find me on Instagram at Stroutocaster. That's my last name. Instead of Stratocaster, it's Stroutocaster. You can find my music at gorgeousbeast.bandcamp.com or at gimmesomeservice.bandcamp.com. Those are my two bands. You can find me at ericastrout.com. You can find me on Letterboxd at Stroutocaster.
Follow us on Spotify. Stay up to date on our latest episodes. I also started us a YouTube channel. It's basically the same thing, but it's always going to be at least 4 or 5 weeks behind. So make sure you follow on Spotify. That way you get all the latest movie nonsense we talk about.
Love it.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next time.
See you next time. And remember, don't cancel Kabuki Theater just because you don't understand it.